There have been records of parakeets in London since the 19th century, but it's only in the last 2 to 3 decades that they've really started to noticeably increase across London and other parts of the UK as well. So the first breeding record was sometime around 1970, but since 1995 particularly and 2023, it seems that they've increased by over 2000%. London has become a really fantastic habitat for parakeets, and there's a few reasons for that. So if you look outside your window, you're quite likely to see a tree, and parakeets really like nesting in trees. And across London, we're so lucky that we've got these amazing green spaces with all these old trees with cavities, and this is what the parakeets like to nest in. So if you give something habitat and if you give something suitable climate and weather and food and all these nesting locations, they're likely to do pretty well. Parakeets mostly eat things like nuts or fruit and vegetables kind of things. So that's why a lot of people see them around bird feeders because people often fill up their bird feeders with nice nuts or grains or things like that. So these parakeets will quite happily come to bird feeders. Um, there are actually some bird feeders that you can get that are parakeet proof, so you can't get these bigger birds that can get to them. But what might this mean and why should we care about that? So there are some areas in the world where they're starting to see that these parakeets are going for fruit that's being grown on trees or horticulture. And that might cause a major issue because if you've got these parakeets that discover suddenly that your apples look really, really tasty to eat, what's that going to do for the people who are growing them? And what's that going to do for food supplies in the first place? The origins of parakeets in London are really quite questionable. And over time, there's been a variety of different legends, like Jimi Hendrix might have released them in Carnaby Street, or they were all released from the set of The African Queen at Shepperton Studios. But I don't even think that it was Shepperton Studios in the first place at all. So these myths kind of all fall apart. And there are a few others, like the big storm in 1987, and they might have all escaped from the aviaries around the UK or London at least. But it doesn't really seem that it's any of those that would be the major reason for why we're seeing so many parakeets across London now today, but more people used to keep these things as pets. So since there's records going back to the 19th century of parakeets being kept as pets. And what happens over time is they might escape, they might get released, but also it seems that, and researchers have been able to recreate this and look at this through old newspaper clippings. It seems that there might have been some diseases over time, some parrot diseases that would have caused people to release their pets out of the fear of getting these diseases themselves. And over time, this accumulates, and now they kind of spread across London and other parts of the UK. Historically, parakeets have mostly been confined to London, but in the last few years, the last decade or so, maybe a bit more, they've started to be seen more and more frequently across different cities in the UK. What does this mean? It means that they can spread. Across the UK today, it seems that there are probably around 12,000 breeding pairs, but that means around 30,000 individuals. And this is a major increase since records first began, or at least since the 1990s.